Well, actually I prepared this video for a slightly different set of names, some of which are discussed further in this video. But since the Ashes of Ariandel DLC is going to be released really soon, let's begin with those new names related to the Ashes of Ariandel DLC that we know so far. As for the name Ariandel itself, it has quite a few different and intriguing possible meanings that I discussed in the very first speculations video about the DLC announcement trailer that I made right after the trailer was released. So if you're going to watch it, be prepared for some old first look assumptions regarding the other subjects discussed in the video. Not to repeat the entire part of the old video's content here, let's briefly mention only some of these possible meanings, leaving an annotation linking to the older, more detailed video. So Ariandel seems to be composed from Aria, Aryan, which might mean Sanskrit noble, Old English to show mercy, Welsh silver, Tolkien's elvish sunlight maiden, and Del, which might mean Welsh pretty, beautiful, Breton foliage, leaves, might be derived from Proto-Germanic dela meaning part, portion or Proto-Germanic delo, hollow or abyss. Or be Tolkien's elvish del for horror, loathing, fear. So different combinations of these meanings provided us with some intriguing meanings, as among others, the horror of the Sunlight Maiden. But let us proceed to the newer names we've recently found out. Sister Fried or Elfriede. Her name is quite simple actually, being formed from Old English elements elf, fairy, possibly being derived from Proto-Indo-European albos for white, plus thrift, strength. And another newly mentioned name is that of Pyromancer-Dunnel, which seems to be derived from a name which, I believe, is long familiar to us. Domnall meaning ruler of the world. Although, I'd prefer to research this new character's lore properly, before making final conclusions, while I guess it's not really likely that it's the same Domnall. And as for other pyromancy-related names, check out my previous video about the etymology of Izalith and names of pyromancers if you're interested. It's just me still being proud that I finally found the real meaning behind the name NG, that had been bugging me for several years, for the video. Sorry. As for Corvians, whose gear will be present in DLC, they're quite easy, as, taken their raven-like appearance, their name almost obviously seems to be derived from Latin corvus for raven. And, on a side note, I believe I've read some assumptions in the comments that Father mentioned in one of the DLC trailers is none other than Gwyn's uncle, Lloyd, as he's titled as Allfather. And this thing is more related to Lloyd than the DLC, but I'd say that, even though that theory looks rather intriguing, it's not that likely to be the case here, as Lloyd's title of Allfather, as we discussed in my older Behind the Names of Dark Souls Gods etymology video, is actually an adaptation of Japanese term Shushin, which can also be literally translated as Chief God, Lord Deity, King of Gods, which doesn't actually imply that he is father, so being referred to as father isn't the strongest link to Lloyd. However, it still doesn't rule out the possibility completely. And that would be it as for Ashes of Ariandel names for now, and I'm really looking forward to play the DLC. Hopefully, it will provide us many more interesting topics to discuss. However, if I just stop here, I guess the video would be kinda too short, with not enough content. So, let's discuss some of the older names that, for one reason or another, didn't fit into the concepts of my previous videos, but also didn't require much time to be discussed, so discussing them in separate short videos would probably disappoint you. Or you would be disappointed if I made some shorter videos as well. Please tell me in the comments. And let's start with Yhorm the Giant, a reclusive lord of Cinder, and an old friend of a certain knight. As for his name, it is quite simple actually, as it seems to be created from the Old Norse Yhorman, also present in Old High German as Ermin, Old English as Eorman, Old Saxon Ermin, ultimately derived from Proto-Germanic Ermun as strong, whole. However, word Yhorman might also be used in the meaning of huge, as in Jormungandr, huge beast. So, Yhorm the Giant would actually mean huge giant, or strong giant. Also, if I'm not mistaken, there's a Swedish picture book for children called Fortrollinga, and a partially animated film Dunderklumpen based on it, that features a character named Yatan Yhorm, Giant Yhorm, who, however, has appearance of a living mountain, which isn't quite similar to Yhorm of Dark Souls. But, let's now proceed to another character related to the Profaned Capital and his name. Namely, the hostile court sorcerer of the Profaned Capital. Although his name is never mentioned in the game, the official strategy guide states that his actual name is Court Sorcerer Eamon. And Eamon, or Eamon, is, in fact, an Irish name that is derived from Old English elements Ead, wealth, riches, fortune and Mund, protection. Thus actually being an alternative form of name Edmund and meaning protector for the wealth, treasures. And taking that we face him at the Profaned Capital, full of treasures. Especially since we find him on the roof of the building that contains some items, such as the Eleonora axe, whose name meaning we've discussed in the second episode of the Behind the Souls series names videos. So name Eamon actually fits this court sorcerer rather well and might explain what is he doing there, what is his task, to protect the treasures of the Profaned Capital. And an interesting moment is that in the description of the exploding bolts it is mentioned that their inventor's name is Edmund, which is pretty much the same name as Eamon. What do you think about that? However, it's only what's written in the strategy guide. The character doesn't have a name in-game, I guess, so it really likely could be just a coincidence. And the last name that I'd like to discuss in this video is a rather old one, thus probably some might already know about it, but I'd still like to mention it, the name of Black Iron Tarkus, a knight famous for his great strength. He conquered the deadly Sen's fortress and made it to Anor Londo, and his name is a little unusual and ultimately originates from the progressive rock album Tarkus by British band Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Tarkus there is a heavy half-tank, half-armadillo cyborg, who is depicted on the album cover, and such description could fit our Tarkus as well. His name was inspired by Tarka the Otter, of novel by Henry Williams and Tarka the Otter, his joyful war to life and death in the country of the two rivers. But, I guess Black Iron Tarkus didn't just get into the game straight from the rock album. As more likely, the album's character Tarkus first served as an inspiration for Hirohiko Araki's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure character Tarkus, a powerful and strong zombie, thus undead, warrior of the ancient Britain, who, in his turn, inspired Tarkus of Dark Souls. And, I guess that would be it for this video. So, thanks for watching. I hope that it was interesting for you, and I also hope that you like to check out other, in my opinion even more interesting, lore, etymology or cosplay, historical and of Berserk manga characters, videos on my channel.